Grain bins always pose the dangerous risk of accidents, even fires and explosions. Joining us for safety reminders around grain bins and to prevent burn injuries is Trauma Outreach Coordinator Tracy Dethlefs-Rademacher at CHI Health, Good Samaritan Hospital of Kearney. Tracy, the first full week of this month was National Burn Awareness Week. What can you tell us about the risk of fire?
Well, Paul, burn injuries continue to be one of the leading causes of accidental death and injury in the United States. These injuries can happen from residential fires, vehicle crashes, and fires from other sources. One fire death is happening every 2 hours here in the United States. The majority of these injuries are preventable. One of the big culprits is adding accelerants to fires. Never add an accelerant to an active fire. Other tips to prevent burns are to do some of the following. Set your water heaters to 120 degrees Fahrenheit to prevent unintentional scalds. Create a kids-free zone around any ovens, stoves, or fireplaces. Use appropriate heat sources when warming your homes, garages, or shops, and make sure to clean any chimneys yearly. Store flammables in their original containers and always keep away from heat sources. Clean your lint buildup around dryers monthly and that lint trap with each use. Never smoke in bed or while falling asleep. And lastly, do not overload your outlets or circuits. Make sure to have working smoke detectors throughout your home and businesses. And don't forget to change those batteries. Also, have an escape plan and make sure your family is practicing it. And make sure to have a safe place to meet outside. That way you know when everyone is out. If you do sustain a burn injury or have smoke inhalation, please seek medical attention immediately.
This time of year, there's always a lot of activity around the grain bins as producers move grain out. Grain Bin Safety Week is March 30th through April 3rd this year. Tracy, do you have any safety tips to know around the grain bins?
Much like quicksand, flowing grain can bury workers within seconds. So here's a few safety measures to practice while working in and around the grain bin. Keep all children out of the grain bins and wagons, and try to have at least 3 people involved when you're working in a grain bin and enter with a rope and safety harness. In case of an accident, it'll take 2 people to lift you out using this equipment. Don't count on someone outside of the bin to be able to hear you when you shout. Equipment can be very noisy and block out your calls for help. If you do become trapped in a bin with flowing grain, but you're still able to walk, stay near the outside wall and keep walking until it stops. If you are getting covered by flowing grain, cup your hands over your mouth and take slow breaths until help arrives. If you are with another person that becomes trapped, go get help immediately. Never first try to attempt a rescue by yourself. You could be wasting valuable time. Turn on the fan if able to move the air in the grain bin, and you also may need to cut large holes around the bin, approximately 5 foot up from the base to empty out the grain. If you cut too many holes, the grain bin can actually collapse. You want to use a front-end loader tractor or an abrasive saw or an air chisel to open up those holes. Using a cutting torch should be your last resort, as it actually could cause a fire or an explosion from the dust. And lastly, encourage your local rescue squad to seek training for grain bin entrapments.
Talking right now with Tracy Dethlefs-Rademacher, Trauma Outreach Coordinator at CHI Health, Good Samaritan Hospital of Kearney. Continuing with safety around grain bins, the other risk around grain bins are fires and explosions. What do people need to know to prevent those from happening, Tracy?
Well, Paul, we've talked about this before, but here's a quick review. To avoid fires and explosions within grain handling and storage operations, it's important to understand the elements that make up the fire triangle. Fire requires 3 things to support it. That's fuel, heat, and oxygen. For explosions, you add in disbursement and confinement. Managing fire and explosion hazards means focusing on strategies to eliminate one or more of the elements required to support that fire or explosion. Since oxygen is difficult to eliminate, efforts are usually focused on eliminating one of the other elements. Common examples that would create heat include cutting, welding, torching, or drilling. Avoiding these activities reduces the risk of completing the triangle. Dust control is another important step when analyzing your grain handling system. By controlling the dust, you're actually decreasing the fuel.
Tracy, do you have any final thoughts?
Just a reminder to keep all safety equipment in proper working order and to have working fire extinguishers readily available. It doesn't hurt to practice using these extinguishers with your family and coworkers. Make sure you understand how to use them before the emergency actually happens. Stay safe, everyone.
Thanks, Tracy. That's Tracy Dethlefs-Rademacher, Trauma Outreach Coordinator for CHI Health, Good Samaritan Hospital of Kearney, offering advice for preventing burns. And being safe around grain bins. This interview and many others can be heard when you click podcast at krvn.com. I'm Paul Perkins for KRVN.